Some stories are about so much more than a single lawsuit. Today, we're going to deconstruct the system behind a huge workplace scandal. We want to understand how a culture of fear can get so powerful that it almost seems to operate beyond the law itself. Okay, let's get into it.
This quote right here really gets to the heart of the matter. See, this isn't just about what one person did. It's about the entire structure that allowed it to happen, the power that protected him, and the culture of silence that let it all fester for years.
So what was the first crack in that wall of silence? It all started with one woman who made a huge decision to sue not just the company, but the man at the very, very top.
To really get the gravity of this moment, you have to look at the timeline. Roger Ailes launches Fox News in '96. By 2002, just 6 years later, it's the #1 cable news network. He held this immense, almost absolute power for 2 decades. So when Gretchen Carlson filed her lawsuit on July 6, 2016, she wasn't just suing her boss. She was taking on the entire institution he had built from the ground up.
And this, right here, this is the core allegation from her lawsuit. It's not subtle, is it? It's an alleged quote that directly, explicitly connects a sexual relationship with her career advancement, saying it would make problems easier to solve. I mean, that is the textbook definition of quid pro quo harassment, and it became the absolute bombshell at the center of this case.
But here's the thing. An incident like that doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It was a result of a much, much bigger environment. So let's zoom out and really break down the culture that made something like this possible in the first place.
And this is the most crucial part to understand. Roger Ailes wasn't just another CEO. In that building, he was the architect, he was the gatekeeper. He was the one person who could single-handedly make or break anyone's career. And when all the power flows from one person, you know what else does? All the fear.
So how do you maintain a system like that? Well, it was like a 3-step playbook. First, you centralize all the power in yourself. Second, you use the fear of professional ruin as your main management tool. And third, that fear creates a demand for total silence because everyone knows that speaking up is a career-ending move.
This really captures the day-to-day reality for people working there. A conversation like this isn't about company policy, right? It's about pure survival. The message couldn't be clearer, and everyone understood it. Your job, your entire career, depends on your loyalty and, most importantly, your silence.
And this leads us to what I think is the most critical distinction in this entire story. And that's the line between what is clearly, undeniably illegal and what is just toxic.
I want you to think about that for a second. We tend to lump all bad behavior at work into one bucket, but the legal system draws a very, very sharp line. So where is that line exactly? This slide breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you have the allegedly illegal stuff, demanding a sexual relationship for career perks or retaliating when someone says no. But then there's this whole other universe of behavior, the constant public humiliation, the degrading comments about how someone looks, labeling a woman difficult or a man-hater just for having an opinion. That stuff is toxic, it's incredibly damaging, but a lot of the time, it's not actually illegal. And that is the key takeaway here. The most disturbing part wasn't what broke the law. It was the everyday legal toxicity that created the perfect breeding ground for those illegal acts to happen. That culture of belittling and humiliation, it normalized the abuse of power. It made the illegal stuff feel like it was just one step further down a path everyone was already on.
So you might be asking yourself, okay, if this was happening, how on earth did it stay a secret for so long? Well, the answer is in the corporate machinery, a system that was specifically designed to contain these kinds of problems.
And the #1 tool in that machine was something called forced arbitration. It's often a little clause buried deep in an employment contract that you sign without a second thought. But what it does is sign away your right to ever sue your employer in a public court. Instead, any problem you have has to be handled behind closed doors in a private process far away from public scrutiny. So you see how it all fits together? Forced arbitration keeps complaints out of the news. If a complaint does manage to move forward, a confidential settlement with a strict non-disclosure agreement buys the victim's silence. The top priority is never fixing the problem, it's protecting the reputation of the people in charge. This system wasn't broken, it was working exactly as it was designed to. It didn't just allow abuse, it actively contained it. But even the best-built systems can fail. And when this dam finally broke, the costs, both in dollars and in human suffering, were just staggering. First up, Gretchen Carlson's settlement. A reported $20 million.
And, maybe even rarer, she got a public apology from the company. A huge number.
But that was just the beginning. By 2017, the total payouts for other harassment claims had ballooned to around $50 million. This made it crystal clear this was not just a one-off problem.
And then came the price tag for the business itself. The company's shareholders actually sued the board for failing to do their jobs, and that resulted in a $90 million settlement. This was the final financial proof of a deep systemic rot.
But honestly, all that money pales in comparison to the human cost. For someone like Gretchen Carlson, the harm was a clear case of professional retaliation. She lost her show, her contract was dropped, and her career was fundamentally damaged just because she spoke up.
And then you hear the stories from other victims like Lori Lunn, and you see a completely different, and in some ways even more terrifying model of harm. This wasn't just about a career. This was about years of alleged psychological control and sexual exploitation. We're talking profound, long-term emotional trauma, fear, and isolation. It just shows you the devastating range of abuse that this one system was able to produce.
But out of all this pain, a really powerful legacy did emerge. Carlson became one of the leading voices against forced arbitration. Her story helped fuel a national movement that, believe it or not, actually led to new laws that limit how it can be used in sexual harassment cases.
And that brings us all the way back to where we started. This story is just such a powerful reminder that sometimes the most destructive systems aren't the ones that are busy breaking the law. They're the ones where power has become so absolute, so concentrated, that it doesn't even need to break the law anymore to completely break people.